Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Healing and Dealing podcast. Today, I'm so honored and excited to have Tammy Ward here with us. She started working as a life coach in 2016 after honoring her skills as a motivator during her 24-year military career, helping others develop habits to enhance themselves as much as the mission. After retiring from the military, she received her bachelor's degree in social psychology and a life coach certification from Lumia Coaching. Tammy has also honed her mystic abilities through meditation, shamanism, and daily spiritual practice. She is inspired by the wisdom of Michael Singer, Sarah Wiseman, Jay Shetty, Mel Robbins, Jen Sincero, and Sonia Roman, amongst many others. She embodies her mantra, embrace life boldly, and guides others to do the same. With Tammy, you get a mind, body, and spiritual companion. Hi, Tammy. Welcome.
Hi, thanks, Charlotte. Thank you so much for allowing me to be in this space with you. I could tell from day one since we connected, it was just a really great energy. So I thank you so much for that. And I love what you're doing. I
Thank
love who you're
you.
bringing on. I love always the thought process that you have in your podcast. It's very intriguing and it's very connecting. So I
Thank
just want to
you.
commend you on that and just say, keep going. Today is 8/8 portal day.
I
So
know.
if it's open, write those 8 things down that you want to manifest with specification, and
That's so funny you say that.
burn it, allow it to go into the air
I was
and be it. Yeah.
reading about that last night for the first time. I was like, what
Mhm.
is this? Why is everyone posting about this? And I'm a Leo myself, so I'm like, okay, I really need to
Yeah.
jump into
Yes.
this. So 8-8,
Yeah.
write down the 8 things you want to manifest. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. 8 things you want to manifest, 8 things you want to desire.
Okay. Oh, I think I lost you for a second. Are you there?
I think we got
Oh,
disconnected just a little
there we
bit there.
go.
There we
That's
go.
okay. We can cut
Um,
that part out. No
yeah.
worries.
No worries. Yeah, like when you're in with me, it's with the energy because everything comes through. I usually lose internet connection, so I can't do
Really?
that. But yes, I mean, it happens all the time because I have so many spirits that come in at the same time.
Okay.
So it just comes through. But yes, 8/8. Write down those 8 things that you absolutely want to manifest. With specifications. Not just I want to receive a job. You want to write down this is the kind of job I want for me to be able to allow me to come into myself, and I want to
Yeah.
have it on March 12th. I mean, like whatever it is for
Mm-hmm.
you. Those are the most beautiful things that you can do to have that specification. Fold that little piece of paper up, and the next morning, tomorrow morning, take it outside in the beautiful earth, burn it, and allow those ashes just to be. And then you just
Wow.
let go. You just say thank you, and then from there, as you know, you just pay attention to where you're being directed. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the beautiful part about it that I've learned is that whenever you're not expecting it, right? So you pay attention, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to talk to this person. So you talk to that person. And even though it's a conflict or a heated thing,
Mm-hmm.
the universe needed you to have that to show you something else. And that's the
Absolutely.
beauty of it all is to accept all that is allowing for you to know.
Yeah,
And that's what I love about it. Yeah.
you worded that so beautifully. And it can even go bigger with just like the huge struggles we go through in life. Like you
Oh,
have to go through them to see something on the other side that you couldn't
absolutely.
have seen without going through that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it takes
Absolutely.
time to learn that, of course, and it's not easy, but it's
No.
worth it after it's done.
Yeah.
Okay, so today I'm going to write down 8 things I desire and
Yes.
manifest, and I'm going to do it with my daughter too, and we're going to do it together. So,
No, I love that you bring the family into it. I mean, just think about it just for a minute. I think about this often too. Definitely from my childhood because I was not taught this at all, but or even knew it existed. But
hmm
if you're taught this at such a young age,
yeah,
energy, manifestation, self-love, self-care, sometimes I think back and I'm like, man, how great it would have been. Where would I be now if I
yeah,
would have had someone who taught me that to show me that greatness?
yeah,
And so I
totally.
love that you're bringing your family. I do my son the same way. We when it's full moon, super moon, all of those things, we always do little pagan rituals that
That's
allow
so
us to bring
cool.
in with the energy. Yeah, I love that you're doing it with your family.
Yeah,
Go
the
ahead.
day that we met when we were swimming with, we had like a
Hmm.
mom date, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking, excuse me, like how lucky is your son? Like for to have you as a mom, like that is like I don't know. I literally thought that day, and I was like,
Oh,
man, imagine having a mom like Tammy. That'd be so cool.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. But it's not always, sunshine and rainbows. I mean, it's one of those
Of
things where,
course.
as we're still having a human experience.
Yeah,
And with my military career, as well as my childhood, which was full of abandonment, full of abuse, full of neglect, all of that, it's just as you did.
hmm,
You make certain choices in your life that turn it around,
yeah,
and those choices come from ourselves, with our inner self. And so there are times where, that PTSD comes out, right? That
sure.
PTSD is there, and you're looking at your child, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, why am I screaming?" They're
Hmm.
looking at you like, "Oh my gosh, why are you screaming?" And I think the beautiful part about it is that I've always been very extremely open with my son about my own struggles, my own PTSD, um,
Okay.
and a level that he could understand.
Hmm.
Obviously, he's only
Yeah.
10 years old, and so it's one of those things where it's like, I usually will, if something has happened and I'm projecting, right? I
Hmm.
got something from a past experience, and my emotions are in turmoil. I allow the conditioning behavior come up into my human self, and I'm projecting onto him that frustration.
Yeah.
I will 10 out of 10 times go back and say, I completely projected onto you.
Yep.
What I felt was I was over here, and a memory came up to me in a time that I was beaten and abused, and it really shook me to my core. And so when you came into the room screaming, I instead of taking a moment, I was still in a projected moment. And so
Yeah.
I want to apologize for projecting onto you. I am now in a space of love, and I would love to hear what is going on. Right? So it's not always
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
that happens probably all the time with
Yeah,
parents who have gone through
absolutely.
trauma and they
Yeah.
just don't recognize it. They're just,
Mhm.
reacting every time. But
Mhm.
taking that pause and realizing like, okay, this is separate. I'm like bring yourself to the present moment. I can see that all the time. I have to ask myself, am I
Mhm.
reacting from a place of Charlotte, 37 years old, or am I
Mhm.
reacting
Yeah.
from a place of like that scared 5-year-old or that teenager or, whichever phase of life that
Mhm.
I still feel like I can react from at times if I'm triggered, So I love that
Yeah.
awareness so much.
Well, I
Uh,
love what you just said when you said, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry
no, it's
about
okay.
that. I love what you said when you're like, I am aware. You're basically saying I am aware of that reaction,
Mhm.
and then you're stopping for a second and say, okay, how can now I respond to this life? How can I
Yes.
respond in this present moment? Because I think a lot of people, that react and respond is something that they don't quite get yet. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I don't want to react to someone. I want to respond to something. I want to,
Yes.
and so taking just a moment at any moment,
Mhm.
whether that PTSD moment, that trauma moment's coming up, or whether it's just like beautifulness, you're like, okay, well, how can I respond to that? If you get into that daily practice of saying, okay, how can I respond to that? Even when it comes to
Exactly.
food, what we put in our bodies, or what we even meditate to, it's like, okay, how can I
Mhm.
respond to this right now?
Yeah.
When we do that, it's like, oh, the angels are singing,
Yeah,
falling on bliss. Yeah.
it changes so much internally and then in your relationships too.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
just 2 years ago, I was extremely reactive. That's how I grew up, it was like react, 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 just putting out fires all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really been a skill I've had to work on, and I'm still working on it daily.
Yeah.
It's hopefully in like 10 years I'm a pro at it, but we'll see. We'll
Well, see,
see.
I try not to be a pro at anything. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's one of those things where it's like, we're conditioned to so much in the
Mhm.
society, in this matrix that we live in. And, there's so many people out there that says, practice makes perfect, but when
Yeah.
you can understand that practice makes progress, then you
Yes.
can understand that we're always going to have the trauma. We're always going to have the PTSD. We're always going to have this inside us,
Mhm.
because it's just, that's the way our mind, it's the way the brain works, right? It's a mechanical machine
Mhm.
that's like, it has all these little areas that says, I'm going to store this memory, I'm going to store this pain, I'm going to store this. And of course, because it wants to keep you safe,
Mhm.
and safety means comfortable with where you're at right now.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you're coming from that place of reacting, your mind's going to be like, oh, okay, remember that's what we do. We react. That's what we
Yep.
do, right? We react, right? And so we have to tell it to like, no, that's not what I want to do. Then
Mhm.
your brain's like, no, no, alert, alert, alert. And so,
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, yes, come from a place of peace, but understand that we're always going to have reaction inside of us. I think
Yeah.
wasn't it Rumi who said, or Ram Dass who said, yes, I have anger inside of me, but I
Mhm.
choose not to come from a place of anger.
I
And
love
I think
that.
that is so powerful because it is all about choice. It is all
Yeah.
about choice. Yeah.
I'm curious your opinion on something you said brought this up for me. How would you suggest someone can go, like when someone has trauma, how do you come from a place of empowerment instead of victimizing yourself? Because I feel
Yeah.
like I struggled with that for a long time where it was like, why me? Why did I have to go through this? And then I started turning it and using it as
Mhm.
motivation and empower myself. But can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, one, I just have to commend you, listening to, pretty much all your podcasts, because
Oh, thank you.
I become a bit of a stalker sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's
We all
interesting.
do.
That's interesting that you say that. Let me give me more, right? Um, I mean, and just listening from your story and to like have this conversation with you now and just know you now, it's one of those things where like you're not you're not coming from a victim mentality and so it's about seeing that,
Mhm.
knowing that what is it's about understanding what is a victim, right?
Right.
A victim is somebody who continues to tell their story, continue to tell the story of like, oh yes, I was abused, oh yes, oh you don't know how I had it, and that's where the victim mentality comes from.
Yeah.
And for me, I've now come from a place where I can tell my story and not have any emotions attached to it. And so I
Yes.
think it's about releasing the attachment that we have to the stories and to the situations that we have been in. And so,
Mhm.
but I am no longer going to attach myself to this person, to this situation. So therefore, I release it. But yet, I can tell you, yeah, I could sit here and tell you that, you know, um, a story about an abusive moment in my childhood,
Mhm.
but I have no attachments to it. It's just
Right.
like it is there to be able to learn from, and so I think once we release that attachment, it's about learning to continue on in a
Ha
way of I'm pressing on. I'm no longer that person anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of someone listening who's thinking, "Okay, that sounds great, but how do I release that
Yeah,
attachment?"
absolutely. I think there's different ways into doing it and everyone is different. As a personal development, as a transformation and spiritual development person, coach, I would definitely say the first thing is to understand, do I still want to be a victim?
Mm,
So
okay.
first and foremost, you need to ask yourself, am I a victim? Do I still want to be a victim? And if you really can get into those questionings, you can really understand where you're
Yeah.
putting your energy because everything is energy. So even those situations are energy. And if you
Mhm.
keep attached to them, they're going to stay with you. And so meditation would be good, as you know, a
Yeah.
meditative state of going back. So a lot of times you can have a journey, what we call it, in that shaman
Mhm.
practitioner world is having a journey or daydream, whichever one you want to call it. People call
Mhm.
it different things. And you go back to that memory. You just go back to that memory and you allow yourself that power in that moment. So maybe you were too young to speak up for yourself, or
Right.
maybe you were too young to fight back. It's about taking that moment and not creating anger, but create a space of like, you no longer affect me.
Yes.
Your words, your fist, your energy no longer affects me. And once you make that choice that it doesn't affect you, then you can move on. You can then
Mhm.
begin to see the power that lives within you, you know.
Yeah. This reminds me of EMDR. That's what I did.
Oh, it's yes. I mean, it's funny that you say that because as I go through my spiritual development practice, I realize that a lot of it is EMDR. Even some of the things that I teach my clients is EMDR.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why it's a beautiful process, right? And it can
So
be so
powerful.
powerful once you get to the root
Mhm.
of it. I mean, so powerful. And really, so that's really all you're doing because you're just shifting your cognitive thoughts. You're deciding to tell like what do people say? It's like, am I the one talking or am I the one listening?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you're neither.
Right.
You're choosing to allow it to come into you. Right.
Mhm.
I can remember when my son was first born, as a first mom, you have all of these thoughts of like, oh gosh, okay, if I don't hear them sleeping, or what if they're not breathing? So anytime I would have those
Mhm.
thoughts come up, I would say, stop, stop. Everything is fine. You
Mhm.
are fine. We're in this moment and we're at peace,
Yeah.
so it's just about making the decision to take a moment and say, I am not a
Yeah.
victim. Yeah.
Yeah, I find like my brother, for example, or anyone
Hmm.
who's in active addiction, they often have that victim mentality.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think if they ask themselves those questions, they would want to stay in that.
Oh,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Well, yeah, if they ask their quote, "Am I a victim?" They'll say, "Yes, I am because of this and this."
Yeah.
And that's when they'll say, "Yeah, I am a victim."
Yeah.
But if you really ask yourself, "Do I want to continue?
Yeah.
Do I want to continue to be a victim?"
That's the way out right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the choice right there.
Mhm.
In saying, "Okay, I've identified myself as a victim. I know what situation has caused me to remember being a victim, but do I want to continue to choose to be a victim?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I never felt like a victim. Like I really never did. It was just until I
Yeah.
started digging really deep inside myself that I was like,
Hmm.
"Oh my gosh, this is so much," and I started
Yeah.
seeing all these different traumatic experiences that I needed to get through and like you said, release the attachment to. That's when I started getting overwhelmed and thinking, "Why me? Why me? Like,
Hmm.
why did I
Hmm.
have to go through this?" And I had to really like ask myself those questions and what am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
Why was this life given to me? How am I going to use this to help other people?
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's something that I think about a lot and
No, I heard that when I listened to your first episode. I heard you speak that way. I heard you say, "Okay, I didn't feel like I was a victim. I didn't feel like I was being traumatized. I was just simply doing what I needed to do."
mhm.
You know what I mean? And so a
Yeah.
lot of times when that happens, our soul is saying, we have to understand when we say I, like I am, right? You
Mhm.
have to know the difference between, is this coming from my human or is this coming from my soul? So when you say like I was not a victim, but why did I go through this?
Right.
More this is of why did I go through this, instead of switching and like reframing those little words, like reframing them
Yes.
for you to like feel better in that energy, and reframe to say, okay, great. I went through that. All right, soul, spirit, whatever you call it. Um, this must be something you needed to learn. This must have been
Mhm.
something that you came back to this earth for. So what is the lesson here? And the lesson was you went through all that to be able to be here, right, as the
Mhm.
healer that you are, to be able to give this open opportunity for others to heal and for others to understand and for others to get the knowledge in a layman's term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the beauty of it.
For you, I've read that you bring healing into your everyday life and you've really
Mhm.
worked on releasing things that held you back. What types of things do you incorporate into your everyday life?
Yeah, it took me a long time, as everyone does, and not every day is perfect, right? Not every day is
Mhm.
that greatest day, and we always have things. Um, But I just begin with the simple things. The first moment I wake up in the morning, I just say, I love you.
Mm,
I love you. And
that's
I really
huge.
feel it. I feel it in my whole body.
Mhm.
I feel it and I just simply just take it in a minute and I just like, I feel the energy of love just pass through me.
Mhm.
Because as as our human body rests, our soul is like doing all its astral travels and all of
Mhm.
that, but it's still tethered to us. And so once I wake up in the morning, I just say, I love you. And then I say, thank you for coming back to me,
Mm,
for that soul to come back to me. And I always just say, let's start the day great. Show me how great it can be.
I love that.
Right. And then from there, I just get up and do. Now, I might wake up and slip and twist my ankle and hit my head on the wall. Right. I think there's an understanding that, when you're present in the moment, it's
Mhm.
about even having those hard moments and seeing the beauty of it all,
Yeah.
and listening to your story and hearing and seeing you in life. I feel like that's a great deal that you do. Like you're like, okay, here we are, flat tire. okay, let's
Mhm.
let's just do it,
Let's
right?
get through it, yeah.
Let's just do it, and because you're not really getting through anything, you're just doing it. You're just living
True.
it. You're just
True.
being in it, you know? And because I think when you it's like those little reframes we talk about when you say, "Let's get through this," that still is a little bit of a victim mentality of like, "Oh,
Mhm.
here I go again," right? And it's more of like, oh, "Okay, great. All right, well, you're showing me I need to slow down. Perfect. I will
Yeah.
slow down. I will catch my breath." And reframing those little words. And so from there, I get up. I usually I have a journal. First thing I do is I write in it. It's a body positive journal. It's a mind positive journal.
Okay.
And it just really I just kind of like put in there, certain things of you know, I want to be shown today how wonderful it can be through play, through
Mm.
music, through light. And it takes me like 2 seconds to write down.
Mhm.
After that, I have a routine of a great body movement, exercise, just a little something to just get the flows going. And
Mhm.
then after that, I listen to either Tibetan bowls or I listen to. There's this one lady on YouTube. I completely forgot her name, but she does like this. "Oh, oh," and like I listen to that and I just really feel inside myself. But I do it before anybody wakes up in the morning. So I
Okay.
get up earlier. So I get
Yeah.
up before the spouse is up, the mother-in-law's up, the kid is up. It's
Mhm.
it's all so that way I can just have my moment.
Yeah.
So I think when we have our first thing in the moment, it is like that. So that's usually my
I love
daily.
that. I
Um,
j I really
yeah,
feel like all of that is missing from my life right now. I feel like I was
yeah,
doing it for a while, and then I would just start sleeping in more and more,
oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
now I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's your mental mind saying, let's keep you safe, let's keep you feeling like you're tired. Yeah,
yeah. But I
yeah.
absolutely loved when I was waking up earlier and meditating and journaling, so where can I find that discipline and motivation? Like, help me.
I get again, I mean, everybody's just like, where can I find motivation? And I think that once you take that first step, that's where you gain motivation.
Mhm.
Whether even if it's, I think it's just not about beating ourselves up about it, right? Even if you
Right.
do sleep in, wake up and just say, "I love you. Thank you so much for allowing yourself to have rest.
Yeah.
Now let's go."
Okay. I
Right?
like that.
It's not going into that, "Oh, well, I didn't do this and I didn't do that," right? Because then
Yes.
that's just the roller coaster, right? The
Yeah.
cycle that your mental mind wants to say, "Oh, don't forget, I want don't get uncomfortable. I need you to stay
It's so
comfortable."
true.
Yeah.
I love that reframe because
Mhm.
I feel like that would help me even wake up earlier on other
Yeah.
days just because once I start giving myself grace and compassion, it's just
Yeah.
everything flows better, you know?
Just
So,
floats better, doesn't it? It's so
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
And I listen to Mel Robbins too. It's like one of my favorite podcasts. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
do you remember when she was doing that high five challenge?
Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it until recently,
Mhm.
so I tried it, like, 3 days ago, like, give yourself a high five in the mirror,
Yeah.
and it
Mhm.
felt really good. I was like, "Okay, I could do
Yeah.
this every morning,"
Yeah,
and
you're truly seeing yourself. Yeah, you truly see yourself. Yeah.
yeah, and it was really powerful. The
Mhm.
episode I listened to, it was with her and her husband was saying, "No, I don't wanna do that. That's
Mhm.
stupid," and then they dug into it, like, "Why? Why don't you wanna do it?"
Mhm.
And it came down to he couldn't look himself in the eyes in
Yeah.
the mirror.
Yeah.
So it's very deep with it, you're doing a
Yeah.
simple high five, but you're really looking straight at
Mhm.
yourself
Yeah.
and who you are, and he broke down on the podcast. I was like, "Oh my
Oh, yeah,
gosh."
yeah, I listened to it. It was amazing, but I love the transparency and the openness they
Yes, me
have
too.
and sharing and because that's what we all struggle with, right?
Mhm.
We all struggle with these things of not wanting to be seen because our conditioned society, doesn't want us to allow us to see ourselves. What it does
Exactly.
instead is our society has taught us how to put others in front of us. And
Mhm.
so anytime we have to put ourselves first, we get uncomfortable, right? We're
Yeah.
like, "Oh no, that's not supposed to happen." Or what do I really see? What will I really see if I do look at myself?
Mhm.
And I think that was so powerful for him to explore as well as for them to share. It
Yeah.
just makes me think of I did the challenge as well. I did do it. I did
You
do the high
did?
five thing. And it felt so good. And by the 5 days into it, my guides were telling me to go deeper. And so
Mm.
what I did after that is I looked in the mirror. I literally looked into myself,
Mhm.
seeing my soul look at myself. So seeing my
Wow.
soul look at my human body, look at my human decisions and my human choices.
Mhm.
And I mean, I can remember just bawling like a baby because it was just like, oh man, I'm acting from a human all the time. I'm
Wow.
not acting from my spirit, which is where
Mhm.
I want to come from. And and it was so powerful in that moment to understand that all these experiences that I went through, I think just like you, we were basically 30 at the age of 6,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it was like. Our mentality, our thoughts, our process of us taking care of others, we
Mhm.
did it then. So then we grow a little bit, and then we have a little bit of like mischievousness, because
Mhm.
we didn't get to experience it back then. So
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, well, I just want to love life. I want to be
So
able to
true.
play and do this and not have this responsibility because I was so overwhelmed at the age of 6 to whatever.
Yeah.
And if we think about that for a moment and really just look into that, it's really our soul was taking over then. Our soul was like, hey, look,
Mm.
I'm going to put you in this situation so that way you understand us when you do reach the age of 30, you can
Mhm.
understand that I need you to come back to be a 6-year-old. I need you
Wow.
to come back and play and love yourself and just have no thoughts about the things that hold you down. You've
Mhm.
already been through that.
Hmm.
And it could be so powerful to just see ourselves,
That is
you know.
so interesting. I think I'm still waiting for that playful time in my life.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like that I would that brings up so much for me. Wow.
Well, if you don't mind, if I could just, do you mind if I kind of like do
No, not at
a little
all.
bit here? So when the energies that you go through a day are completely attached to you. So even with your regular job, with your family, and other things outside that, your love is so big, right? I mean, the way I see it, your heart, you love so big, and
Mhm.
it's so beautiful. I might cry a little bit because it's just I love love. I love love,
Hmm.
right? And so because you go through all those little areas, the areas of love that you send out to people, you automatically attach to their energy, and their energy attaches back to you.
Mhm.
So as you're giving them love, you feel their pain.
Mm. Yeah.
And so you need to find a way to be able to release release their energy from you, whether it be, there's some people who do cord cutting, there's some
Mhm.
people who do visualization of releasing energy, but we
Yeah.
must understand that every moment we connect to energy. We can connect to our dog's energy, our kids' energy, the outside energy. A tree, we can connect to that energy, Mother Earth's
Mhm.
energy, right? And so if we're feeling a bit off, there might be just some stuck energy from
Mhm.
maybe somebody you saw 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
And I feel for you, you give love so much in those spaces that you take on their non-playful energy. And therefore it's
Mm.
hard for you to find the energy to be playful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
that's that sounds so
yeah.
right.
So a lot of times, if you go into cord cutting, there's 3 different ways, right? There's cutting the cord, there's detaching the cord, and then there's replenishing the cord.
Mhm.
So depending on what it is, if it's like somebody at the grocery store that I saw and connected to that energy and they're like angry, right? And then I feel all of a sudden feel angry, right? It's the
Mhm.
same as like say if you're walking through a neighborhood and all of a sudden you feel angry and you're like, I wasn't angry 5 seconds ago, but now I'm really irritated. It's because somebody you walked by, a house you walked by, or somebody drove by you, and that energy is just connected to you.
Wow.
And so you have to just release that. And so
Mhm.
cutting them, you can just be like, "Whoosh, no more, right? Visualize it leaving you. You're done with it. Have it go back to whence it came. It doesn't belong to you anymore. Another way is, sometimes when it's a sibling or a family member and they're like, "Wah!" And I'm like, no, I simply just detach them from me and I put them in visualize imagination. I put them into the earth or into a tree and I ask Mother Earth to be able to have their energy and heal it because it's not
Mm.
mine and I do not want it. I do not need it. It is not of service to me,
That's
right?
a huge one for me.
It's a huge one because I still want to give them love. I still want to give them. I want to wish them well.
Yeah.
So I don't need to cut them from me. I'm just asking for someone else, something up
Mhm.
higher than me, to recharge them.
Yes.
right? And then just send them off with well wishes. Now, sometimes with like my spouse and my son, I will re-energize that cord because I want that cord still attached to me because there's so much love there and I need to be with them all day long. But
Mhm.
I will just send that cord beautiful, bright colors, love, 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 just love.
Mhm.
Sometimes I imagine I'm playing a harp or I'm just in that moment. And those are three different ways of like utilizing that energy to say it is not mine.
Yeah.
I wish it well, or let's give it more love and connection,
Mhm.
you know. And so you have so much energy on you. And so at the end of the day, perhaps a practice for you would be like jumping up and down.
Mhm.
Imagine the cards are just falling off you. The cords are just falling, just right.
Okay.
They just fall off you. I do not need you. You're not with me anymore. Or maybe you like to like take a shower at the end of the day. Like just imagine just washing off.
Mhm.
You can imagine whatever feels comfortable for you. I had one client that he was big into baseball. And so he
Mhm.
imagined it being a big ball and he would wrap it up and he would whap it. Right. It's like,
That's
okay, well,
awesome.
whatever works for you. Right.
Yeah, just get rid
Whatever
of
it is,
it.
it's just for you, just getting rid of it and releasing it. So that way you can come back into that playful self, that loving self, that rejuvenated self and
Mhm.
come from that place, you know, and allow yourself time to do that. Like I know our lives on a human level can be so, I mean, we've got pick up this kid, get that kid, bake dinner, go to this
Yeah.
sporting event, go to that sporting event. There's so much going on, but you must give yourself time, 5 seconds, 30 seconds to just do that release and just know that the universe has got it.
Do you think that that has anything to do with like kind of I personally feel like it's more of like a energy roller coaster sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's associated with like my menstrual cycle because
Oh,
I don't have a period, so I never really
mhm.
know. But lately I've been trying to pay attention to those little signs because sometimes I'm just like I'm doing great and I'm feeling so positive and then maybe it is the energy of other people because it happened with like a conflict with my mom. It was like after that night I was just I, like, hit the
Yeah.
ground, and
Yeah.
I got
And
home from work
that's
and got, like,
exactly it.
right in bed, and I was just, like, feeling all of these, like, nasty, negative things coming at me, like, my
Yeah.
thoughts, and I'm like, what is this? I don't do this anymore. Why am I doing this?" You know?
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
to had to pull myself out of it.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said, why am I doing this? What is happening here? Because I think, there's always that how, what, when, where, and why. And I think
Mhm.
if we just say how instead, like, how can I release this?
How can
How
I
can I not
release
be attached to
this?
this? How can I just let go of this? Because, yes, I mean, that is the exact moment I'm talking about where you just attach to your mom's energy.
Mhm.
She must have triggered something. She must have like hit something that is from a past experience. And you're like, maybe it's because, you don't feel like you're heard or you don't have the voice to speak because she's not going to listen anyway. If it's
Mhm.
anything like my mom,
Mhm.
I can speak, 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 but there ain't nothing coming in,
Right.
right? And it's just that unfortunately those humans have taken over and they're just stuck on that way. They don't want to see
Mhm.
any other way. And that's fine. I wish you well. I love them. Thank you so much, but that's not something I'm going to be a part of, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like in the moment you can do it as well. So, you know, a lot of people so like in the moment if I'm in a conflicted like with my siblings or with my mom or something like that,
Mhm.
I just simply say, you know, I love myself enough to not be in this conversation or be in this energy space with you. I'm going to go ahead and go. I love you. Be well, and I'll talk to you soon. And I'll either just leave or I'll hang up.
I'm
You
literally
know,
writing this down so I can
okay.
remember it next
You know,
time.
it's one of those things where it's like even though they're going to sit there and talk some shit, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, I
It's
didn't mean to.
okay.
Okay.
I've
Uh,
cussed.
all right. I got that sailor mentality, right? So even though it's there, right? Even though they're gonna be like, just don't you gonna remember what Charlotte said to me today, right?
Mhm.
Or your sibling might be like, okay, well that's just I'm not gonna talk to you for a while. You just have to allow them to be in their space.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Whenever you're ready, I would love to be in that energy with you. But not until you're ready to come, and have a human experience that is kind, and loving. So many people out there are like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And really, our soul's main purpose on this earth is to learn, to love, and be kind. That's
Mm.
it. That's our soul purpose. But our soul's mission is something completely different. It's what we're supposed to get out of this lifetime,
Okay.
you know? And so there's always two different things. The purpose is always the same: love, be kind, and learn. And then your mission is like, what do I do with it? What do I do with all that? You know, but yes, release that energy.
Yeah, it definitely, it's been going away a little bit every day,
Hmm.
but I still
Yeah,
feel it. And
yeah,
my mom lives with me, and she's probably going to listen to this podcast and be all mad at me
hmm,
after because I talked
yeah,
about her. She gets very
yeah,
defensive, but
yeah,
it a lot of my trauma is from being with her, and she still lives with me, and
yeah.
we face those things still. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
like I just want to like shake it off, like I got the chills right
Yeah.
now.
Well, I hope that she is listening.
Yeah,
Because one thing I would say is that when she's listening, because she's still somewhere inside her wants to be different. She
yeah.
wants to make a shift. She wants to make a change. And by listening to the podcast, she's able to hear it. You know,
Mhm.
whether you get mad and upset and angry, that's just her journey. That's
Yeah.
her journey to learn. You know, and when you get frustrated, that's just the universe telling you you're connected to it too much. You're deeply into it. You know, it's in a way, and I know this seems hard to comprehend, but it's in a way that we must understand. We're a soul having a human experience. We're going
Mhm.
to have another lifetime. You know, there's people out there that say, you have this one life, let's live it to the fullest. And
Mhm.
I disagree with that because we have multiple lives. We have multiple lives, and we will continue to move on and on and on and on. And so it's like utilize this lifetime to learn what you need to learn and work through the things that you need to work through on, so that way the next lifetime you ain't got to do that shit again. Right?
Yeah.
You've already been there, you've already done that. Your soul's going to like, okay, great, we learned that lesson, let's go to the next
Mhm.
one. Because the hardest thing about it is that we must understand there was a time and a place where our soul came to this earth to be a murderer. It wanted to
Mhm.
know what it felt like to be a murderer. So then in that lifetime, we were murderers.
Wow.
And then once we learn that lesson, we go to the next lifetime. Okay, I want to learn to be a thief. Okay, I want to learn to be a priest. Okay, I want to learn to be a mom. Okay, I want to learn to be a dad. Right? It learns all these things because it's so vast to go to the super extension of, when we get to that part of being like Buddha or Dalai Lama or
Mhm.
Jesuit or Mother Mary. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, I can just see everything as love. And so anytime she's faced with you and you're faced with her, just see love,
Okay. I
you know?
will. I'm going
Yeah.
to practice that.
It's hard. It's practice, a practice, right? That's what it's all about. It's a deep practice. So
I do feel a deep love with her,
yeah.
definitely,
Oh, definitely.
It's it's just our communication,
Hmm.
And I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of families who live with their parents go through that. You live with your mother-in-law? Did you say that?
Yes. Well, we take care of my mother-in-law. She has
Okay.
dementia, and so we take
Oh,
care of her. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's a little different, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's every and especially with parenting and
Hmm. Oh,
I
absolutely. Yeah.
trying she wants to be the grandma, but then also parent, and it's like we have to have some boundaries set.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was like diving into what you were saying. It was like I was stuck in a little trance listening to all of that.
No.
It's so cool. I
Oh,
just heard something the other day about like our soul's mission that I'm
hmm.
curious your thoughts about. Do you like in your opinion, if like say you didn't learn the lesson you were supposed to,
Hmm.
when you do come back for another life, is it like a worse life than it was?
Yeah.
Or that's what I heard that like you keep going backwards until you start
Yeah.
learning and figuring things out.
Right. Absolutely. The way for me to explain it are just exactly what guides have informed me of. And
Okay.
there's times where I speak to my higher self and I speak to my soul, whether I do automatic writing or channeling, whichever it is, they want to come through as. It's one of those things. What I've understood is that your soul wants to learn the deepest lesson it can in this lifetime. So in this lifetime, for me, I understand that what it needed to learn is for me to get here, for me to be able to. Because as I look back at it, there were many times in my military career where the universe was leading me out of the military. It was
Mm.
basically saying, you are not needed here. You are not
Mhm.
needed here. But because of fear and because of doubt of my own self, of like doing something different than the military, I stayed in.
Mm.
Here I was compounded by fear, compounded by doubt of my mental mind, my human body, society. I stayed in it. And it took me longer and longer. And I went through more pain and more pain and more pain,
Wow.
trying to find myself until finally the universe said, "You're not doing anything about it. I will." Right. Because I think in this lifetime, my soul was like, we've already learned all that. We don't need to go
Mhm.
through that. That's why it was so quickly for me to get through. That's probably why it was so quickly for you to be like, I never felt like a victim. I never felt like that. Because your soul's like, we already know what that feels like. So just go
Oh,
on, go on. You're all
okay.
right. Keep going, girl. You'll get it. You're almost there. Few more years.
Mhm.
Right. And so it's not one of those things where our soul gets mad at us because we're not making the right decision. It's just that finally the universe will come around to say, okay, boom, now you're on it. Because for me, when I retired, it was the military saying, hey, you've done 24, right? Let's get you out so we can get those other people who just came in and get them higher in rank,
Yeah.
right? So we need you to go to fill so someone else can fill those shoes, right?
Mhm.
So it wasn't for me saying, "Okay, I'm done, I'm gonna retire." It was I got notification that it's like,
Yeah.
"You're 24 years, it's good. We need you. We're asking for you to retire so that way other people can move up in the ranks." And so I was like, "Okay then. All right, universe, I'll
Mhm.
listen." And a little bit, prior before then, I had an inclination, right? That
Yeah.
I had a feeling like, "Oh, I am done with this." Right? And so once I began to go on that path to where my soul wanted to, everything opened up, right? I began to receive this guidance. I began to receive the guides that I knew were there when I was younger. I was a kid. My parents, I was what you call like in religious abuse. So they were Pentecostal.
Mhm.
And it was one of those things where I would know things and say things, and they would be like, what are you talking about? Right. And I had no idea of knowing this, but I was just talking, it's like one of those things where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm waking up and saying, "Well, grandma said goodbye to everybody." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Right? It's like so strange for them to understand. And for
Yeah.
me, instead of being able to say, someone saying, "Oh, that's awesome. I love that you received that information from that guide."
Mhm.
I was like told I was a liar, told I was a manipulator. You've got the devil in you. Let us get it out. Right?
Wow.
All these things. And so that's how I was raised in that religious abuse of like, this is not happening. This is not possible. And
Yeah.
I'm over here questioning, well, if you speak to angels and you speak to God, how come I can't?
Right.
Right? It's all the same thing.
Mhm.
It's all the same. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's interesting. So I hid it for a long time. Like I had it dormant inside myself. And so once I got out of the military, it was
Wait,
like,
you held it in all throughout the military?
oh, all throughout the military. So
Oh my
I would be
gosh.
receiving, I mean, in the intuition of like the certain missions that I was doing, it was really great because it was like, oh, we should not go down that one. Let's get an alternate route.
Wow. Did the
Right. So many.
closest people know? Like your closest friends or
No,
anything?
no,
Wow.
not even, not even. I think some of my friends did because when I would get a little bit wasted, because as a sailor we drank a lot. Um, but when I would then start having conversations, or guides would come through and
Mhm.
channel, and I would be talking to them, right?
Wow.
Like say maybe just like earlier, like their grandpa or somebody would come through and want to give them a
Mhm.
message. Like, they'd be like, "Oh, you were talking so much shit last night. You were so drunk." I was like, "What?" So I held all that in. I held it all in.
Oh my
And it was just
gosh.
dormant until, I mean, literally, as I got out of the military, it was just like, boom. They were like, "Finally, now can we begin?" And I
Wow.
said, "Absolutely." And, I think it's similar for you as well in that sense of like, "Now can I begin?" They're like, "Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely." And, you feel that. And now it's just going through those understandings of life of like, okay, well, I'm living with my mom. Yes, she's here. She's trying to do all these other things and parent, how can I reframe and allow myself to be me, but not allow her energy to affect me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing I'm gonna work on
Hmm.
because I feel like that's
Yeah.
what's affecting me the most right now,
Well, and just
energetically.
love her through your soul, not through your human,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah. And then, of course, like being a social worker and
Yeah,
having
no. Yes.
clients, and I feel like I want the playfulness to come out so
Hmm.
bad. And
Yeah.
I was thinking, I did some inner child healing when I finished my certification, and
Mhm.
it you're supposed to go back to like a time in childhood where you were playing, and I could not think of one. I couldn't think of any like
Yeah.
joyful just a time when it was, like, just fun, like,
Mhm.
I feel like there was just always something, like, worry, a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry,
Yeah.
like, what's gonna
Yeah.
happen? So, yeah, it's time to, like, have some fun and
Yeah.
be
So
in
what
that
did you do in
playful.
that process? Did you just release it? Like, I'm just curious now. So
Yeah,
what was that like? Were you able to find something, or did you say, "Oh, I don't have anything. Let me move on"?
it was more of just, like, an awareness of, like, wow, like, there isn't anything I can pull on right now,
Mhm.
and it was with a partner, so she was walking me through it,
Yeah, I
and,
see.
at the end, it was like, you give feedback and all of that, and I told her, I was like, "I couldn't think of any
Mhm.
playful time." And the only time where things started to become fun was when I started drinking as a teenager. So then
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
associated fun and play with
Yeah.
alcohol,
Alcohol.
so
Yeah.
many like, limiting beliefs just
Absolutely.
back
Yeah.
to back holding me back. So now it's like
Yeah.
trying to break free from all of those.
Absolutely. There's also times where you can go into past lives and go into
Really?
a time when those times were fun, right? And
Oh.
so if you, whenever you're in your meditative practice,
Mhm.
just listen to, and maybe a type of like a love frequency, or just have like a little bit of something, or maybe some drumming,
Mhm.
whatever's good for you, and then just set the intention saying, I would love to be shown a past life when I was a child and had so much fun and
Okay.
just had joy. And then just allow, like, don't look for an outcome. Like,
Mhm.
don't like already like have it, okay, I'm going to be on a playground, or I'm going to be, it's just whatever comes,
Mhm.
even if it was like playing with snakes,
Yeah.
right? Just whatever comes to you, and then be in that moment, and then allow that energy of that moment to be able to be with you in this energy in this moment, you
Okay.
know? So you can also do that as well, and going back to a past life,
Mhm.
to be able to feel those feelings again and have that confidence and that clarity of what
Wow.
fun looks like for you.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna practice that.
Yeah.
And literally this whole time, I'm like, throughout our talk, I'm like
Hmm.
coughing, and it's like something's
Yeah.
trying to come out?
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
feel it. It's so
Yeah,
strange.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that could just be a clearing of the throat chakra.
Mhm.
That could be, just definitely like just wipe it out, get that gunk out of there, do what you have to do. Drink plenty, what people like a lot don't understand is like somebody like us that like do so much energy throughout the whole day. We
Mhm.
need to have electrolytes. We need to have tons of water, more than what most people even realize.
Yeah.
We have to be able to drink that, so that way we're replenishing our body, because we're
Yes.
expending it so much. Even after
Mhm.
this we'll probably both be a little tired because
Mhm.
our energy is in it. But understand that, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm having information come in and the guide's talking to me, so you might hear me talk to the guide. I apologize for that. I
Don't
didn't
be
mention that I
sorry.
didn't want
Don't
to do
be
that.
sorry.
Definitely not sorry, but I didn't want to freak anybody
Mhm.
out. But what's coming in is that, an understanding that what you consider play is based on our society. So your
Mm.
play is different than what other plays might look like, in the sense of like playing dolls, or playing hopscotch, or playing a game, or playing this. Yours comes more with the fluid of a dance.
Mm.
So just remember that those type of things are play as well. The guide
Yeah.
is saying that playfulness is also anything that gives us joy. It
Okay.
reminds us that we are a child within and a child of the divine, which makes us divine. So,
Mm.
child of God, which is of God, that makes us God,
Yeah.
right? In a
Mhm.
spiritual way. See, this guide is trying to come in too. Do you hear my voice change? He's
Mhm.
asking for me to channel. And I'm telling the guide that I'm not going to channel right now, that I'm just going to be with you.
Mhm.
Um, so just remember that as well. Even if it's like
Okay.
listening to music in a car, or doing your nails, or anything like that, like your thoughts of play comes from the human conditioning.
Yeah.
So do the things that your spirit is saying is a play, because it could just be drawing or painting,
Mhm.
things like that. So just remember that as well.
Okay. And
Yeah.
that's so funny you say that because the two things that I do that when I can finally loosen up and let go is
Hmm.
dance around with the kids and then like sing in the car as loud as I can. I get so much joy
Yeah.
from that because I love
Yeah.
singing.
Yeah.
So that
And so
was
that's
spot
it. So
on.
whenever you're feeling down and stuff, just jump in the car, go around the block, singing
Mhm.
whatever it is you want to sing.
It's usually like Whitney Houston, "I Wanna Dance with
Yeah, there you
Somebody,"
go.
or
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
that
That's
one
a good
gets
one.
me. It gets me
I
out of
can dance
any
to that too,
funk.
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh,
So and so
Tammy,
do those things. So stop and do those things whenever you have the moment,
yeah.
right? I mean,
I
even if
was
it's just like driving it out of the driveway and driving it right back in. Yeah.
I was doing a little ritual every morning with the kids where I would put that song on because
Hmm.
they're just like their moods in the morning are terrible sometimes,
Yeah.
you know? So I would put
Mhm.
that on and like wake them up, and my energy was so much lighter when I did
Mhm.
that, and they liked it and it was fun and
Mhm.
it wasn't a fight, you know? So
Yeah.
it's something I want to incorporate
Yeah.
daily.
Um, they're telling me that the reason why your kids are like that sometimes is because they're not sure how the day is going to go. So
Mm,
possibly if you can start incorporating like, hello, good morning. What a wonderful day we have. Today we have this, this, and this. This is our timing for this, and da da da. So I think that they're telling me that that's something like your kids are not sure what the day is going to be for them.
mhm.
And so if you can just incorporate, hey, this is what we, even before they go to bed or maybe first thing in the morning, and then allow them to have a spot of the day where they get to choose, might be
Okay.
helpful as well. Yeah.
You just explained my daughter. Like,
Oh, did I?
maybe that will help because every day
Yeah,
she's like, if I tell her we have something at 4, "You didn't tell me I had that. I didn't know I
right.
had that," and, like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
she gets anxiety about it, or, like,
yeah,
she just doesn't like it, and she
yeah.
always wants to know what time it is. How long is it
Mhm.
gonna take to get there?
Yeah, yeah. So she does that before she sleeps. Does she have a hard time falling asleep as well?
Sometimes, yeah, I have to give her
Yeah,
melatonin sometimes.
yeah. So just in those cases, just do that. Like, here's our calendar for tomorrow. I want to make sure that you do what you want to do. Where can we put that in?
Okay.
It's they're telling me that that's something that your kids need is to understand the day. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. I've been,
yeah,
like, searching for something to help me, so I
yeah.
bet you anything that is gonna help so
Oh,
much.
good,
Thank you.
good. Yeah, no worries, no worries,
I
no
love
worries.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, or lastly, I guess I could say, where can people find you? I'm going to put it in the show notes, but if you want to
Yeah,
say it
absolutely.
here.
So, Coach Tammy Ward is my thing. So it's Coach Dash Tammy. Um, what is it again? I can't even remember. So it's three W.
It'll be
It's
in the show
Coach
notes.
Dash Tammy Ward is what it is. And then I have my own podcast, which is Embrace Life Boldly. Hopefully, I can get you on
Woo!
there as well
Heck
sometime.
yeah.
And then, and yeah, I'm right there. My website just basically just can send you anywhere it is possible. So, yeah, so that's where they can go.
This was such a powerful episode. Like,
Yeah.
I want to thank you because I feel like I got so much out of it personally that I have like a whole thing of notes right here next to me. And
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I knew you were going to be great. I knew it. So thank you so much for
No, thank
joining
you so
us.
much for just sharing the space with me. I again cannot thank you enough for just being a part of this human experience that is giving
Yeah,
others different ways of thinking, different ways of moving, different ways of processing
right.
than what we're used to, and understanding how to get out of the cycles. I mean, really, this is
Yes.
almost every single episode is about how to be better,
Mhm.
and not in the sense of like there's something wrong with anybody. Like a lot
Right.
of people say, I need healing. And I always remind people, you're not broken.
Yeah,
There's nothing to heal. What
exactly.
you need to do is just come from a place of, I want to be more than I was yesterday.
Mhm.
Right? If you're more than what you were yesterday, every day you will learn. And I love that you're bringing that out there. We need more people like you that
Yeah.
like brings this to the forefront. Because as you know, our universe is shifting. I mean,
Mhm.
this is where it's going. This is what's opening up. Our universe is opening up everything for people to say hello,
Mhm.
McFly. So I think
Mhm.
it's wonderful. So thank you so much for bringing that space to this matrix we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just so grateful anytime I hear people tell me that they listened, or
Mhm.
what they learned from one of the guests I had. It's
Yeah,
like, wow, people really are listening and getting something from
yeah,
this, and
absolutely.
it's truly from my heart, and I'm just so excited and happy to be doing it that I wanna make a whole episode on the process I went through just to m make the
Oh,
podcast
oh
because
yeah,
there
you
was
should.
so
Yeah,
much that went into that, and
yeah,
I had to
absolutely.
face within myself, so
Mhm.
all right, we'll wrap this up. Thank you
All right.
everyone for listening. Thank you, Tammy, and we'll see and hear from everyone on the next episode.
All right. Thank you.